Well, this is pretty amazing. It's actually time to start writing the paper. We've worked quite a few months on getting to this point. You've turned in your revised PowerPoint. I intend to have them all graded by tomorrow, about 24 hours from now. And it's critical now that you actually get going on paper. You have less than 2 weeks. You have about 2 weeks to turn in a completed rough draft. Okay. When I say 10 to 12 pagers, that's what I expect to see in the rough draft. All right. The purpose of peer review at that point is to help you improve some of the fine details of the paper, but nobody at that point can help you write it. Okay. You have to write the paper and turn it in as a completed project. Peer review is basically meant to help polish, ramp up your thinking a little bit, and polish some of the issues that maybe you forgot to accomplish. Speaking of which, there's a very good folder in this unit called Resources, and you really need to look at that before you start writing your paper, okay? Particularly the grading rubric. The grading rubric, it's a learning tool. It spells out in detail exactly what I'm looking for in this paper. I'm going to just start at the top of it and go through it very quickly. It's a pretty long rubric, all right? First of all, we're in college. You have to cite things correctly. You have to format the paper correctly. That's pretty self-explanatory. Organization relates to focus. It also relates to your PowerPoint. Basically, your paper needs to unfold along the same lines of your PowerPoint. It needs to stay focused, all right? I haven't had a chance to look at all the PowerPoints, so they need to stay focused. It needs to stay focused on something small. Paper needs to drill down this direction, not go that direction. That's very, very critical. That's what organization is. Of course, it needs to be spelled correctly. There can't be typos, that kind of thing. Speaking of which, I just saw a huge typo in the rubric. Okay, my bad. Research, I'm counting on at least 8 academic sources. By academic, I mean databases, right, not web pages, plus some other sources, all of which are fully utilized in the paper. Sometimes students will turn into the proverbial data dump of Fulkerson, all right? They'll have this nice long works cited list, but they only use 2 or 3 sources in the paper. That's a huge no-no, okay? That does not create a research paper. You can't write a paper from just 1 or 2 sources. You have to cover the body of research pertaining to your topic. Make sure you cover multiple points of view. That's what this long list of research does for you, okay? Expect a nice, tight introduction. I'm not looking for a high school introduction. I'm not looking for a attention getter. Just say what the paper is going to be about. Say what you're going to prove, okay? Stick to that. Keep it short and tight, okay? 5 sentences makes a great introduction at the most, 5 sentences. The conclusion should be somewhat similar. The conclusion should kind of turn around. It should briefly summarize. That's kind of redundant. Summarize means brief. It should, just pick 3 or 4 of the high points that you made the paper. Kind of say, as we've learned, blah, 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 from this, this, and this, right? And then you basically rework your thesis statement backwards. You kind of prove your point. You kind of use some of the words from your thesis statement in there to show the reader that you're at the end of the paper, okay? Some of the sample papers do this pretty well, all right? Paragraph development, this is absolutely key. Sometimes I see papers turned in where the student has left the quoting, the sources do the writing. Never, never do that, okay? You need to keep your papers always in your own voice. They're a lot easier to read, all right? They're a lot more pleasant to read, and it keeps you on your toes, all right? Readers don't like a lot of quotes, okay? They don't want to read the quotes. They want to read your voice, what you have to say. So all paragraphs need to start off in your own voice. All paragraphs need to start off with a clear sentence that basically confines the paragraph to that sentence. It's a topic sentence, and it basically informs the reader what point you're making in that particular paragraph, all right? Then the research that you're incorporating that helps develop the paragraph, helps prove that point you just made, or helps give some examples of that point. Another point, or another thing I want to point out, another issue, is don't quote stats and statistics, that kind of thing. Don't quote numbers, right? Just paraphrase that kind of stuff, okay? And don't start paragraphs with the research. Don't start paragraph with the numbers. Start paragraph with the point that you're trying to make, and then let the numbers, the statistics support and prove that point, okay? That's what paragraph development is. You'll notice that counts for quite a bit of your grade, okay, 15%. Critical thinking counts for 20%, all right? We're looking for something new in this paper. We don't want this to be a Wikipedia account. We don't want this just to be something any of us can look up real quickly and say, oh, okay, there it is. It's like when I see people want to write about diabetes. That's fine, right? But very often they just, spend 10 pages telling you what diabetes is. We already know what diabetes is. It's something wrong with your sugar levels, and it has terrible consequences. What we don't know is how to live with it, how to avoid it, how to reduce it, right? How to cope with it throughout the rest of our lives. That's what we don't know. Tell us that, all right? So tell us something new, all right? Don't be cliche. Page length, I'm really serious about page length. if you expect an A, it better be 12 pages long, 10 is the minimum. Okay, I'll have students sometimes tell me, well, I can say everything I want to in 8 pages, right? No, you can't. You can't develop your points. You can't show the reader what you mean. You can't provide good case studies, good illustrations. You can't humanize the paper in that length, okay? Writer's memo, very important. I need to know what you learned from the project. I need to know how peer review went for you, that kind of thing, okay? So please, pay attention to the rubric, look it over carefully. That'll teach you how to write the paper. There are also some good sample papers in there written by students, and there's also what's called an annotated paper in there in the resources folder, which kind of shows you how a research paper should develop. Okay, basically you write your tight introduction with a sentence there at the end that kind of states what you're going to prove in the paper. All right. Then you might do a little bit of background, not too much background. Okay, don't forget we can look up the background, and then you spend the rest of the paper developing your points along your PowerPoint, kind of slide by slide, paragraph by paragraph. Get to the end, conclude. Never add new information to the ending, to the conclusion. Don't do that. Just summarize the paper real fast and kind of reflect back on the introduction and thesis statement. You should be able to find some of the same words in the conclusion that you had in the introduction. It ties it all together. Okay. So hey, good luck. Please check your calendar. I'll get back with you on the peer review process in 2 weeks. Okay, we've got 2 weeks now to work on this paper. Don't hang yourself that 2-week period. Please don't do that. Okay. So hey, hang in there. Speaking about hanging.